I'm Tania Haber. I'm senior pastor here at Westwood Lutheran in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. I was kind of in the first wave of a larger group of women that hit Luther Seminary, and they still had there were no women's bathrooms at Luther Seminary. And so they taped women on a little piece of paper over some of the men's bathrooms. So there were a few women ahead of me, but I was in kind of that first larger group. So when I thought about mentors, they aren't women because they weren't there. After that year, I really went to seminary to be a campus pastor. I thought, this is what I want to do. You can be creative, it's very open-ended. Then I got to the seminary and did an internship in a wonderful, wonderful mission congregation and thought, it's the parish. I loved it, and I've never, ever looked back. I mean, this is just a square peg in a square hole for me. I feel so fortunate to have kind of found what I believe I was called to do, so. But when I was quite small, I mean like 10, 12, I remember telling my mother, I think when I grow up, I want to marry a pastor. And my mom just thought, oh, no, you don't. Being a pastor's wife sounds terrible. But I felt like there was a role that I was being called to, but I didn't know what that was because I never had heard of a woman pastor. So I thought, well, if you marry into it, and then at one point I thought I should be a nun. And my mother said, Lutherans don't do nuns, really. And so I think from the time I was quite young, I was trying to figure out what this call was. And I couldn't see, there was no visual model for where I fit. And one day in Christ Chapel at Gustavus, there was a woman who I've never talked to, who came. She was the intern at St. Olaf, and our intern or vicar and their intern switched pulpits one day. So we ended up with a woman in the pulpit at Gustavus, which I'd never seen a woman in a pulpit. And I remember, I can get emotional thinking about it, I remember after chapel that day calling my mom from the one telephone on the hallway, and saying, I'm changing my major, I know what I want to be. I saw it today. And so as soon as I saw that, something kind of clicked. So that really was kind of a solidification of a call that I think I'd felt for really a long time, but didn't know where to land it. Barriers were only a few comments along the way, just because I was on that front edge and people didn't know, can women do this? Or should women do this? Are you sure you want to do this? I remember even my internship supervisor, who was very supportive and encouraging, said, Tania, you will never be paid as much as your husband, who's also a Lutheran pastor. And, I hear comments like that, and it's just like, just watch. The barriers, I guess, with my personality type were only more motivators to say, no, you're wrong. Women can do this, because I don't think I would feel this called to do this if God weren't going to equip us to do this. Just the understanding that God has claimed and called and equipped and sent all of us, and how affirming is that. And no matter if our story is messy or broken, that God is there working in all of that, because that's our identity, is this beloved child. When my kids went to college and their friends said, you go to church, or, why do you do that? I think they were almost caught off guard, because for them, church is that place that's so different than the school they go to and the world they live in, because it says you are loved, you are welcome, you are accepted for who you are. Now let's go change the world. What will the church be like that my daughter will be serving? And my husband and I have said to her, you may never serve a church in a position like you've seen your parents in, because we don't know in 20 years what this is going to look like, And I think about that she's seen something that looks wonderful to her, but I think it's going to be harder. So as I look at young women now that I have a great passion for, both because of my daughter, but in general, I think they've got their own tough road for all kinds of reasons that those of us who came out of a more, churched generation didn't face. Thank goodness women have all different kinds of models to look at now that I didn't have. But am I a person then that someone could look at and say, I can see following Jesus in a role like that? I guess that would be something I would want. I would want people to see generosity and gratefulness as a part of this congregation, as a part of something that I've helped maybe just plant little seeds about.